we're about to take a journey to a really surprising intersection, a place where the biggest questions in modern physics crash right into the most ancient spiritual wisdom. And right in the middle of it all is a question that might just change the way you see, well, everything. You know, for centuries, science and faith, they've been painted as total enemies, right? Like they could never, ever agree. But what if, after walking down completely different roads, they were actually heading to the exact same spot, the same truth? Traditionally, the world was kind of split right down the middle. Over here, you had science, hard facts, objective laws, stuff you could touch and measure. And over there, you had spirituality, the world of faith, of inner experience, of truths you just can't put into a neat little box. And those two worlds, they almost never talk to each other. But then the early 20th century happened, and everything got turned upside down. You had these brilliant minds, thinkers like Einstein, Bohr, and Heisenberg, and they started looking deep, deep inside the atom. And what they found there didn't just bend the rules, it shattered them, giving us this new, bizarre science that would build a crazy, unexpected bridge, quantum mechanics. Okay, so let's dive right into this quantum world. This is where the tiny little building blocks of our universe just stop playing by the rules. They stop acting like predictable little billiard balls and start doing things that are, frankly, mind-bending. So the first big shock to the system is something called particle-wave duality. Get this, an electron isn't just a tiny particle, and it isn't just a spread-out wave. It's somehow both at the exact same time. It's like a cloud of pure possibility. This means that reality itself, at its most fundamental level, is uncertain. It's just hanging out in multiple states at once until something looks at it. Now, this totally bizarre idea was famously put to the test in the double-slit experiment. And this is where things went from weird to truly mysterious, because it revealed something called the observer effect. The results were just baffling. When scientists just let the electrons fly without looking, they acted like waves, going through both slits at once and creating this wavy pattern on the back wall. But, and this is the crazy part, the moment they put a detector there to see which slit the electron went through, its whole behavior changed. It just acted like a normal little particle, picking one slit or the other. Just think about that for a second. The simple act of looking, of measuring, actually changed the physical result. This suggests we're not just watching the movie of the universe play out. We're actually participating in it. Our attention itself seems to influence the story. And this is where we hear that first incredible echo from the ancient mystics, because it turns out they've been talking about a very similar idea for thousands of years, just using a different language. For literally millennia, spiritual traditions have taught this core idea that consciousness creates reality. For a long time, that was seen as a beautiful metaphor, right? A nice idea. But all of a sudden, the observer effect came along and gave this ancient wisdom a very real, almost scientific flavor. But the strangeness does not stop there. Oh no, it gets even weirder. With a phenomenon that Albert Einstein himself found so deeply unsettling, he called it spooky action at a distance. He was talking about quantum entanglement. Okay, so picture this. You have two particles that are linked from the moment they're created. Now, if you measure one of them here and find its spin is up, you instantly know, and I mean instantly, that its partner, even if it's on the other side of the universe, has a spin that is down. It's like having a pair of magic coins. If one lands on heads, you know the other one billions of miles away just became tails. This connection is what's called non-local. It's instantaneous. It's faster than the speed of light, which should be impossible. It basically tells us that at some deep level, our normal ideas about separation and distance just fall apart. And how can you hear that and not be reminded of one of the most central teachings in mysticism, the idea that we are all connected, that separation is just an illusion, that we're all just parts of one single, indivisible whole? All right, now it's super important to be intellectually honest here. We've got to pump the brakes and address the very strong, very valid arguments from the mainstream scientific community, because this is definitely not a one-sided conversation. Skeptics will rightly point out that all this quantum weirdness tends to just vanish in our big everyday world. This process is called decoherence. Basically, the particle interacts with its environment and loses its strange quantum properties. They also argue, pretty convincingly, that taking these subatomic rules and applying them to our own lives, something often called quantum mysticism, is just a flat-out misuse of science. For most physicists, the dominant view is a really practical one. It's famously summed up by the phrase, shut up and calculate. The thinking is, hey, the math works. It lets us build lasers and computers and all sorts of amazing things. So why get bogged down in all these philosophical questions about God and consciousness? They're just a distraction. But even with all those valid criticisms, there's one thing that is absolutely undeniable. Quantum physics completely demolishes a purely materialistic, clockwork view of the universe. It kicks the door wide open for a profoundly new way of thinking about reality itself. And the guys who founded quantum mechanics, they weren't just technicians. They were deep, philosophical thinkers who immediately got just how huge their discoveries were. I mean, Bohr put the yin-yang on his coat of arms. Heisenberg talked about finding God at the bottom of the glass of science. And Schrödinger was deeply, deeply influenced by Eastern philosophy. Just listen to Schrödinger himself. He basically said that his work suggested that the ancient idea of a single universal consciousness wasn't just a philosophy, it might be a scientific reality. And remember, these aren't the words of some guru on a mountaintop. This is a Nobel Prize-winning physicist. So what this all points to is a radical shift. The universe, at its very core, starts to look less like a giant machine made of dead matter and more like a great thought, a great consciousness, where information and interconnectedness are the fundamental building blocks. Okay, so after that wild ride through the quantum realm, where does that leave us? Let's come all the way back up for air and look again at that one central question we started with. So let's be crystal clear. Did quantum physics prove God exists? Absolutely not. It didn't find a bearded man in the sky. But here's what it did do, and this is the revolutionary part. It completely destroyed the old, clockwork, materialistic universe, a universe that had no room for things like mystery or wonder or spirit. In the end, science hasn't given us the final answer, not even close. But maybe it's given us something even more valuable, much, much better questions. It's opened a door to a universe that is way more mysterious, more connected, and more mind-bending than we ever dreamed. So maybe science didn't kill God after all. Maybe it just gave us a whole new and even more profound language to start understanding the divine.